Welcome back to Theologies. I'm Dan Calcagno. Today we're going to talk about the phrase, spare the rod, spoil the child. We've all seen it. You're in a public setting and you witness a parent-child interaction where clearly the parent allows the child to do anything that they want. And the child wildly throws a temper tantrum in order to get their way. And the parent, probably at their wit's end, gives in to the child whenever this happens. The parent gives their child no boundaries to live within, and the parent allows their child to do anything they wish, regardless of how it affects others or even them as the parent. For many people, this style of parenting is what leads to selfish, rude, rebellious young people. I see it on Facebook. People will post their opinion that there is a correlation between the permissive parenting that we often see with how rebellious and disrespectful some young people are today. These people will say, these kids should have been parented with discipline. This opinion is summed up with the phrase, spare the rod, spoil the child. That is to say, if you do not discipline your child, you will ruin them. They will become everything you don't want them to be. And by discipline, it's meant punishment for misbehavior. But what kind of punishment? Well, there has to be some kind of negative consequence to discourage misbehavior. So we often see timeouts, groundings, taking away of privileges, and even corporeal punishment, better known as spanking. Indeed, the rod is thought to be an implement of pain. It is not just people on social media who have this view. There are many Christian teachers who believe that it is biblical and moral to use physical discipline on children, and indeed necessary in order to prevent them from becoming disrespectful and rebellious. But where is that in the Bible? Specifically, where is the phrase, spare the rod, spoil the child, found in the Bible? That phrase is not in the Bible, but there are a couple verses in the book of Proverbs that seem to teach something similar. It says in chapter 13, those who spare the rod of discipline hate their children. Those who love their children care enough to discipline them. And so the Bible teaches that if a parent really loves their child, they will not withhold the rod. And to be sure, this includes physical discipline. It says in chapter 23, don't fail to discipline your children. The rod of punishment won't kill them. Physical discipline may well save them from death. And the idea here is that even though physical discipline will be unpleasant for the child, it will hopefully correct their behavior and prevent them from going down a path that leads to death. Death through their own destructive choices. Thankfully, the Bible has more to say about parenting and the nature of discipline. In fact, this is a situation that forces us to be mature in our reading and understanding of the Bible. Here we are obligated to dig deeper to find the moral truth that is embedded in Scripture. And contrary to what advocates of physical discipline would say, the Apostle Paul taught, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger by the way you treat them. Rather, bring them up with the discipline and instruction that comes from the Lord. And so this to me is a perfect encapsulation of the approach parents should take regarding how they treat and discipline their children. The guiding principle each parent is to remember is that we are not to provoke our children to anger by the way we treat them. Now, this does not mean that we will never displease our children, but it does mean that treating children with empathy and not doing things that engenders within them anger, resentment, or even hate. Of course, Paul is not advocating for permissive parenting with no boundaries. And we know this because he said that parents should bring them up with the discipline and instruction of the Lord. And in that sense, the best way to raise your kids is through example, which is at the heart of the passage in Deuteronomy chapter 6, known as the Shema, demonstrating to our children what a godly life is by repeating God's ways again and again to your children. Not just talking, but through setting an example, treating children with empathy and compassion, demonstrating a godly character, and actively helping them to learn how to become godly people themselves is infinitely better than using the rod to strike children. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below or follow me on X at Dan Calcagno if you'd like to talk there. You can support me, patreon.com/Theologies. Like this video, share it with others, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon to be notified each day when I upload a new video, and visit my website, theologies.com. Thanks for watching.